Simone de Beauvoir lived a very interesting life. She was born on January 9th, 1908 in Paris. She did not have many friends, but growing up, her and her younger sister were very close. They are 2.5 years apart, but they still shared everything together. As a kid, Simone loved school.
So, what would you say Simone's early education was like?
Simone was raised by her father to be an intellectual, but unfortunately, in her lifetime, formal education was not available to women. Her father didn't really view her as a daughter to be taught, though. Instead, he saw her as his son, seeing as how she was the firstborn and she didn't have an older brother.
In 1929, Simone met Jean-Paul Sartre, who was her life companion, although she had many other lovers. Throughout her life, she became a writer, teacher, and a crucial figure for women's rights.
So, who are you in relation to Miss de Beauvoir?
My name is Jean-Paul Sartre. Simone and I were companions for most of our lives in a very open relationship. Since she refused my offer of marriage after our 2-year contract was finished, we found affection with others and occasionally shared them, though I was a bit more promiscuous. We met when we were studying for the aggregation. Simone came in second to my first. Though the examiners agreed she was the better philosopher, I was more bold, ingenious, and exuberant, so they chose me instead.
So, what do you think needs to be critiqued in society, and who specifically do you critique?
That's a great question. I would say, I think that the way the world is set up, it's only set up to empower men, and this is not okay. Women deserve just as much support as men do. And power. Firstly, I think that women need to socialize to engage in the world. And secondly, they must be allowed to discover what and the unique ways which they can do this. The myth that women must be in the house and not have any sort of role in the environment and the economic ways of the world is horrible. And as long as it prevails, economic and political advances will fall short. And women need to be liberated. They need to have the strength that they deserve. And I think it's very inappropriate to have laws against women. Women deserve the same amount of schooling as boys do.
She was also brought to the public light because of her relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre and their involvement in pedophilia. The couple were never married, which was very uncommon for her day, yet described their relationship as that of a married couple but without bounds. They had an open relationship and called their group of sexual partners the family. Beauvoir was so open about her pedophilia that she petitioned the French government to remove the age of consent.
Simone had some similarities with today's teaching methods. She saw every student as an individual with different emotions and ways of learning. She also believed you couldn't treat everyone the exact same since every individual is different. She strongly believed in biology and sociology. Women should be treated as equals with men and not overlooked in society. She had some differences, though. Her main one was she liked to get too personal with her students. She tried seducing several female students, which led to her not teaching anymore.
I was 16 years old when I first became infatuated with Simone. She was my 29-year-old teacher when she seduced me. Our relationship had gone on for a year by the time she introduced me to Jean-Paul, and by that time the relationship became something that was more polyamorous. They had me believing I was something special, the key figure in an idealized love triangle, but by the time World War II came around in France, they dropped me like I was nothing.
How would Simone view today's opinion on relationships?
Unlike during Simone's era where marriage was norm, today it's a lot different. It is not uncommon for you to see a couple that might live together but not be married. Also, it's becoming less strange to see two people who are not married raising a child without the pressures of marriage looming over them. And of course nowadays, like some of Simone's relationships, casual relationships for just the weekend are growing in popularity.
So, what would be some of your fondest memories that you have?
Oh, well, some of my fondest memories probably are, I remember I was studying for the aggregation, which is a test that rates students on their knowledge of philosophy. And I actually met Sartre here, and we studied together for days and days and days. I honestly thought I was going to do better than him, but Sartre placed one step above me, and I got second. And I actually happened to be the youngest person to pass the exam. Those were the good old days. So what do you think some of her major contributions are?
Simone made many contributions in regards to women's rights. In regards to this, she tried to make it more acceptable for women to be intelligent and independent, to have careers and be more than just wives or mothers. I mean, why should they be considered, less because of their gender?
So, Simone, I see that you've worked hard to disprove the idea that women are less intelligent than men are. What are your ideas for education, your vision of what that should be?
Well, I say that my ideas for education are that women and girls deserve to have the same opportunity as men. I think there needs to be changes in the social structure. I think there needs to be universal childcare, universal education, and legal, contraception and legal abortion for women. And most importantly, I think there needs to be economic freedom and independence from the men. What were her thoughts on the role of the teacher?
Drawing from some of my works on existentialism, she came to believe that human beings are creatures who are free. Freedom of the choice is humanity's greatest value. It's the criteria for morality and immorality of one's acts. Good acts increase one's freedoms, while bad ones decrease it.
After the fact, what I can tell you is that Simone used me and other young girls like Natalie Sorokin as a means to satisfy Jean-Paul. It's really no surprise to me that she was suspended from her teaching job.
How would Simone view education as it stands today?
Simone would be very impressed and pleased with education today. Women are allowed to go to school and pursue careers that were once only available to males, such as doctors and lawyers. It is now a normal, everyday thing to see both sexes in class together, or even more women than men, such as some of my classes were.
What do you think her stance on the Big Four was?
Simone's major goal was equalizing the balance of power between men and women, that women should not live as children within the confines of a world created for them by men. Though she typically talks about this in relation to Western civilization, so she refers to that in terms of heterosexual, white males in specific.
Simone de Beauvoir made many contributions to education and the modern ideas of gender. However, her connection to polyamorous pedophilia has tainted her ideas and opinions and has diminished her reliability. As students, it's very difficult to overlook her relationships with young girls and focus on her contributions to education, but we do recognize the contributions she made to today's ideas of education and the role of women in the scholarly world, both as students and teachers. Encouraged her to read classical literature books as well as encouraging her to write. This type of education was unheard of for young girls in her time.
That I was something special, and finally,
I have to say I self-identified. Sorry.
Whoops, try again.
Sorry.